The morning Emma wandered into her family's old barn. She expected to find dusty hay, rusty tools, maybe a lost chicken or two. The sun had barely risen when 7-year-old Emma ran toward the barn, expecting nothing unusual. But the moment she stepped inside, she froze. 4 German shepherds sat silently in a perfect row, watching her. Dirty, injured, shaking. Their ears perked, their bodies tense, as if they had been waiting for her specifically. Their collars were torn, their tags burned, their posture trained. These weren't lost farm dogs. These weren't ordinary dogs. Their coats were marked with training patterns, their stances disciplined, and faint symbols on their faded collars revealed something impossible. They were police K9s, abandoned, injured, hiding. When Emma stepped closer, one of them, the one with the scar on his muzzle, slowly crawled toward her and placed something at her feet, that a police badge. Before she could scream, a black SUV rolled up the dirt road. 3 armed men stepped out, scanning the property like hunters searching for prey. Within hours, her quiet farm would become the center of a mystery involving missing officers, betrayal, and a secret no one was prepared to face. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Emma woke before the sun, the way she always did on quiet farm mornings. She slipped on her little blue dress and tiptoed outside, hoping to feed the chickens before her father woke. But halfway across the yard, she froze. There it was again, a sound coming from the old barn. Not the usual creaking wood. Something softer. A whine. Curious, Emma pushed open the barn door. 4 German shepherds sat inside. Perfectly still, perfectly silent. Watching her, they weren't wild. Their posture was too disciplined. Their eyes too focused. One of them, with a scar across his muzzle, tilted his head as if studying her. Emma felt no fear. Instead, she stepped forward, whispering, "Hi, are you lost?" The dogs didn't move, but their ears softened. One even lowered his head, almost respectfully. Just then, heavy footsteps thundered behind her. "Emma, get back!" Her father shouted, grabbing her arm. But when he saw the dogs, saw the worn police K9 tags still hanging from their collars, his face drained of color. "Emma, these dogs weren't abandoned. Someone left them here. On purpose." And instantly, he knew something was very, very wrong. Daniel guided the 4 German shepherds into the farmhouse, keeping himself between them and Emma. But the moment they stepped inside, the dogs didn't scatter or explore. They lined up neatly against the wall, sitting with perfect discipline. Emma watched in awe. "Daddy, they listen better than our horses." Daniel knelt beside the nearest dog and gently lifted its collar. The leather was cracked, nearly torn in half, and beneath the dirt he saw something chilling. An official K9 tracking number burned into the metal. These weren't strays. They were trained law enforcement dogs that he whispered a command he hadn't used in years. "Stay." All 4 remained frozen, eyes forward. That night, as the house grew quiet, a scratching sound echoed down the hallway. Daniel followed it to the back door, where the scarred German shepherd stood, pawing urgently. When Daniel opened it, the dog didn't run away. Instead, it walked a few steps, then looked back, waiting for him. "Where are you taking me?" Daniel murmured. The dog led him to the edge of the woods. There, half buried beneath leaves, Daniel found a shredded police jacket. And beside it, a badge streaked with dried blood. His stomach tightened. Back at the house, Emma peeked out her window, watching the dogs as they sat protectively around the porch. They weren't hiding from danger. They were guarding her at sunrise. Emma sat at the kitchen table, swinging her feet while the dogs rested quietly around her chair. She fed them tiny pieces of toast, and each one waited patiently for their turn. No pushing, no barking, just disciplined silence. Daniel watched from the doorway, his mind racing. The morning news played softly on the radio until a breaking alert cut through the room. Authorities continue searching for 4 missing police K9s and their handler, the reporter said. All were presumed dead after a violent raid on a smuggling ring 2 nights ago. Daniel's heart pounded. Emma looked at him. "Daddy, that's them." The reporter continued. Officials now believe the explosion destroyed all evidence. The dogs' bodies were never recovered. Daniel muted the radio, stunned. These K9s had survived whatever horror had unfolded that night and had somehow traveled miles to reach his farm. But why here? Why now? A soft whine broke his thoughts. The scarred German shepherd nudged Emma's arm protectively. She stroked his head. I think he likes me. Daniel knelt, examining the dog's injuries. Old scars, fresh bruises, burn marks. These weren't wounds from running away. They were wounds from battle. Just then, outside the kitchen window, headlights flickered near the tree line, slow, deliberate. Scanning. Daniel's breath caught. Someone else was looking for the dogs, and they had just found the farm. Night fell heavy over the farm, but sleep refused to come. Daniel sat near the front window, watching the tree line, every muscle tight with unease. The dogs sensed it too. One by one, they rose from their resting spots and positioned themselves around Emma's room, silent guardians in the dark. Then it happened. Gravel crunched outside. Headlights swept across the barn. Slow and deliberate, Daniel grabbed his flashlight and crept toward the porch. Before he reached the door, Ranger, the scarred German shepherd, blocked his path, growling low. The other dogs joined him, forming a protective wall in front of Emma as she stepped into the hallway, rubbing her eyes. Daddy, what's happening? Stay behind me, he whispered. Three shadowy figures slipped through the fence and stepped onto the property. One raised a flashlight, scanning the yard like he already knew what he was looking for. There, the man whispered to the others. The dogs. Ranger's growl deepened. The intruders moved closer, pretending to be calm. We're here to collect missing property, one said. Hand over the animals. They belong to us. Daniel's heartbeat thundered. These dogs aren't property. The men's hands inched toward their jackets. Before Daniel could react, Ranger shoved Emma behind a haystack and planted himself between her and the danger, teeth bared, ready to defend. The other dogs followed, four shadows standing firm. The attackers took one step too close, and everything exploded into chaos. The moment the intruders lunged forward, the farm erupted into motion. Ranger launched first, silent, fast, precise. His paws hit the ground only once before he collided with the closest man, knocking him flat. The second German shepherd veered right, biting down on another intruder's arm and dragging him away from Emma's hiding spot. The remaining two K9s circled the third man, blocking every escape route with trained, synchronized movements. Daniel grabbed Emma, pulling her toward the porch as the chaos unfolded. He watched in stunned disbelief. These weren't abandoned animals. They were elite police dogs, executing flawless takedowns without a single wasted move. Call them off. One intruder screamed, pinned beneath Ranger's weight. Daniel shook his head. They're not listening to me. They're protecting my daughter. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, closer. Ranger heard them too. Instead of finishing the fight, he released the man and forced him backward toward the road, hurting him like a criminal being delivered. Moments later, police vehicles screeched to a stop. Officers jumped out, weapons drawn, only to freeze as they saw the scene. For German shepherds restraining three armed men with perfect control, the intruders were quickly handcuffed. One officer glared at them. Why were you after these dogs? The answer chilled everyone. They saw everything, the man hissed. And they weren't supposed to survive. Police cars lined the farm, lights flashing red and blue across the fields. Officers examined the captured intruders while the 4K9s sat calmly beside Emma, tails low, eyes fixed on her as if waiting for approval. Daniel spoke with the detectives, explaining everything, how the dogs appeared, the scars, the jacket in the woods, the attack. The officers listened silently, each detail deepening their shock. Then a voice called out from behind them. Ranger? Ranger, is that you? A man in crutches limped forward, his uniform torn, his face pale but alive. Emma gasped as Ranger sprang to his feet, ears up, tail trembling. The dog rushed to the injured officer, pressing his head into the man's chest as if afraid to let go. The handler wrapped his arms around the dog, tears spilling. I thought I lost you all, he whispered. You saved me. And you found help. The other dogs gathered around him, forming a tight circle. Officers watched with wet eyes. Even Daniel felt his throat tighten, but then Ranger did something unexpected. He walked back to Emma and sat at her feet, refusing to move. The handler smiled softly. Looks like he chose his new partner. With official approval. Ranger was retired on the spot, free to stay on the farm with the little girl who saved him. Emma hugged him tightly. For the first time in days, Ranger finally wagged his tail.